From VTV Channel 6 Studios in downtown Vernal, this is Local Point with your host, Chris Piner.
Welcome to Local Point, sponsored by Ashley Regional Medical Center. We have a special guest joining us in the studio today. He is the son of a Medal of Honor recipient who died for his country in 1968. Let me introduce to you Dr. Rich Etchberger, son of Chief Master Sergeant Richard L. Etchberger. And it is indeed an honor to have you here today.
Thanks, Chris.
All right, now, the story starts then, as we said, in 1968. Of course, much before that. You were a very young man at that time.
Yeah, I was actually 10 years old. I was living in Hamburg, Pennsylvania with my mom and my brother. The reason we were in Hamburg, Pennsylvania is because my dad, when he went on this mission, had a choice to take us anywhere in the United States, and that's where his parents were from. My mom was from Salt Lake City, where I was born. And yeah, we were sitting at home having dinner, typical family dinner, except for something that's really come out here. His mom had just served up strawberry shortcake, and the phone rang. You remember that? Yeah, very much so. The sensory things we remember. Yeah, amazing how that, and my brother, in fact, my brother Corey says he's never had strawberry shortcake since then. The phone rang, and I answered the phone and gave it to my mom, and she talked for about, I'd say about 10 seconds before she broke down and started crying. And I ran down through, we lived in a duplex, I ran down through the cellar to the neighbor's house and got them and brought them back. And within about 2 or 3 minutes, my mom told me that my dad had been killed in Southeast Asia, is what she told me. And that's probably about all she got at that time, wasn't it? At that time, the Air Force had said they would, if there was ever a problem, they would never call us on the phone. They would actually send somebody, which was a little unusual to get the phone call. And so that within a few days, we got to talk to some representatives from the Air Force, and they informed us that my dad had been killed in a helicopter crash, again in Southeast Asia. They didn't have any specifics other than that for us. Now, did you have funeral services and all of that? Yeah, this occurred on the 12th of March, 1968, and he was buried on the 21st of March, so that his body was able to be brought back into the country at that time. And he was buried with military honors in the family cemetery in Hamburg, Pennsylvania. Wow. All right. Now, fast forward. Sure. To 1998. 98. Yeah, about 30 years. I was sitting at home here in Vernal. I'd been a professor at Utah State University at that time for about 3 years. The phone rang, and I answered it, and the gentleman on the other end said, "Hi, my name's Tim Castle, and I'm working on a book, and the book is about the events that your father was involved with." I was a little skeptical, so we Because you were 10 and all you had known was... Yeah, he died in a helicopter crash. And I thought, why is this gentleman interested in writing a book about a helicopter crash? And so Tim and I worked things out. We talked for about 3 hours that evening. And during that talk, Tim told me more about my father in the military than I had ever known before. Just a really interesting, in-depth look at things. And the outcome of that, of course, was Tim had written this book, One Day Too Long. And the book actually talks about the involvement of the United States military in Laos at that time. And it says top secret, Site 85 on here. Yeah, this is the site they were at was called Lima Site 85. It was in Laos, about 25 miles from the border with North Vietnam. And their mission up there at that time, what the United States was trying to do was to pressure the North Vietnamese into negotiating at the Paris peace talks. And one of the ways they were trying to do that was through the bombing of Hanoi. Well, the problem with that was that they were not able to do all-weather bombing. They weren't able to do nighttime bombing. And they had a new technology that allowed them to use radars to guide the bombers in there, but they needed to be within about 30 miles of the target. Oh, so they needed to be in that location where we couldn't publicly be. No, and so what they did to comply with the regulations was that my father and the rest of his team resigned from the Air Force, went to work for Lockheed as civilians, and then they put that radar site on top of that mountain as civilians. Now that had issues with it, of course, some of them being they had no defense up there from the American military. So these men were up there, radar technicians, without much gun training at all. They weren't trained in weapons. The rudimentary, and I understand at that time that was one day on the rifle range for most of these Air Force guys.
Oh.
So, yeah. They did have some of the Hmong tribesmen, the tribal people were there to help protect them, but they basically relied on the mountaintop being impregnable.
Right. Wow.
And it was that way for about 6 months. They were able to stay up there for about 6 months until the North Vietnamese realized that all of a sudden the bombing is getting a lot more precise. It's going on 24/7, and there seems to be a connection to this radar site.
They zeroed in.
Exactly. They zeroed in on this site, and they made a very concerted effort at that time to build roads into the site, to bring in thousands of troops into the site. In fact, the men up on the mountain talked about using binoculars to look down on these troops that were massing at the base of the site.
So they could see them getting closer?
Yes, they could see them getting closer. But they felt, because they had 2,000-foot cliffs along the mountain, they really felt that they were impregnable up there.
Wow. After the break, we'll hear more about Dr. Etchberger and his experience at the White House. But first, here's a message from the sponsor of Local Point, Ashley Regional Medical Center.
Ashley Regional Medical Center now offers neonatal services and a Level 2 nursery, along with our quality obstetrical services. The Level 2 nursery provides state-of-the-art monitoring and clinical care for infants at 32 weeks and older. The team of skilled nurses, pediatricians, and family practice physicians, along with Medical Director Dr. Daniel Kwok, neonatologist, help Ashley Regional Medical Center offer your infant excellent care right here at home.
Welcome back. Thanks again for joining us. And Dr. Etchberger has graciously accepted to tell us a little bit more about his father and the experiences surrounding him receiving the Medal of Honor. And you got to go to the White House. What was that like?
It was, well, certainly it was an honor. And it was a chance, I think, to do a lot of things. One of them, of course, was to go and receive the medal on my father's behalf. We spent the whole week in Washington, which was capped off on the day of the award ceremony. My family, myself, my daughter and my wife and my brothers were very honored to meet the president and his wife. We got to spend some time in the Oval Office with them.
Wow.
Yeah, we actually at that time, to be honest with you, I was surprised how much the president knew about the event. And he had actually read the book. He was aware of those kinds of things. The president and his wife were very personable people. They had a lot of real understanding for what we must be feeling at the time. Not only the great honor it was, but also the great loss that we had as a family, of losing a father and a grandfather.
So he acknowledged all of that?
Yes, very much so. It was...
and he had done his homework?
He had done his homework. It was a lot of folks want to know what the president's like, and I said it was just like sitting here talking to you. He was very, very gracious host, and it was really a neat event.
You must have been very honored, but I imagine in reciprocal, I think he probably was quite honored to meet you after having read the book, especially.
Yeah, I believe so. He during the ceremony, when we were up there on the stage with him. He does this a lot. He's involved in very high-level things, but I noticed a hint of cracking in his voice. Yes. I think he was very much, had some emotional thoughts about the whole event also.
We actually have a little bit of a clip of this. It's not very often we get to show clips, but let's take a look at some of the coverage given by CNN. Now, can you share anything else about this experience? We know that it was an honor. You're in the White House, the Medal of Honor. What was the actual medal like?
Well,
I don't even know what it looks like.
Well, it's a very beautiful medal. I have to say, taking it from the president, I spent the time up on the stage there, and one of the things that went through my head was the idea that hope I don't fumble this thing. Taking that right now, the medal is actually my brothers and I have decided. Rather than keep this in our house, we've decided to share this with the other young men and women that that serve our country so well, and we've donated the medal to the NCO Heritage Hall for the Air Force at Tyndall Air Force Base down in Alabama.
Where it can be seen.
Exactly, where it can be seen and be an inspiration for, as I said, one of the great things that going to Washington and so on was to meet a lot of the great young warriors that we have for the United States, and to provide a little bit of inspiration for those folks.
Your father was a young man, too, at this time. How old was he?
He was actually 35 years old at that time when he was killed.
Close to the age of some of the gentlemen you met.
Yeah, exactly.
Yep. And you have another little thing. Would you tell us a little bit about?
Well, this is actually one of the flags. They flew a flag on the day of the awards ceremony. Flew this flag over the U.S. Capitol for us, and
then presented it to
you. And then presented it to us as a memento of the occasion. So it was another just tremendous keepsake for that time.
Well, I have to tell you, I'm so honored to have you here on our little Local Point program, and I'm excited about what you've been through, what your family has been through. I think this is just wonderful, wonderful, and it's got to change your life. Now you have a personal relationship, I'll bet, with the author of the book as well.
Very much so. Tim Castle, as I said, is still with the CIA. Next month, in March, the Air Force will be inscribing my father's name on the Air Force Memorial in Washington. And I'll be traveling back there for that event. And at that same time, at the headquarters for the CIA at Langley in Virginia, they will also be doing an awards ceremony, mostly to get out there and show all the folks who work for CIA to honor my father.
This story just keeps developing, and so he's going to have to write another edition.
Yeah, I'm thinking an update would be...
You have to do that.
Yeah, sure.
I am so grateful to have you here today. The story could be much more than our small time constraints have given us. I wish that we could do much more about this, and I hope that at the very least people get to read the book, if not get to talk to you. But it's been quite an honor to have you here today.
Great. Thanks, Chris.
Thank you. And thank you for joining us. We hope to see you again right here on the next edition of Local Point.